Hi there, my name is Fix Fox and welcome back to Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era. Today we're going to go into the Temple faction, looking at the heroes that you have in the faction and trying to rank them in comparative strength one to another. It's an important question to ask, as we asked in the two previous tier ranking videos for the Necropolis faction and the Dungeon faction. Is it too early to be doing these tier ranking videos? And I love that the response I've gotten from others is no. It's good that we are doing these tier ranking videos because it generates a lot of discussion, and I love the comment sections where people have been saying, have you considered this synergy with this sub skill, and they've said, have you thought about the early game impact that this hero can have or the late game scaling option that this hero has? And I've learned a ton from the comment section, and I'm hoping that that can continue here today. So with that being said, come along and let's talk about these different heroes. Do note that my tier ranking is maybe a little bit different than other people's. At the very top I have Can't Go Wrong. This is for a hero you just can't go wrong with. Take this hero, you're gonna have a good time. Below that we have a very fine choice. Heroes that are above average, really quality. Below that we have, oh yeah, I can make this work. This is where if you randomly roll this hero, you're not hating life, you're pretty happy about that. Below that we do have tough to use. Maybe it's a hero that has a specific strategy or play style that might not offer a lot of flexibility for you to really get the very best out of them, and that could be difficult to use. And then below that I just have a section in case I say to myself, you know what, I need more information on this, let's not make a decision at the moment. And starting off in our tier ranking video, we're going to start off with Aeos the Exalted, and we're going to see if we can't go wrong with this hero. Aeos the Exalted will increase the morale of friendly creatures by 1 and will give you some scaling percentage chance at taking additional turns as they level up. So being a morale specialist hero, as far as I'm aware right now, there's only 2 of these in the game. There is Aeos the Exalted, and then there's one of the heroes from the Hive faction. Those are the only 2 at this current juncture, and they're both equally strong in my opinion for different reasons. But Aeos the Exalted, this feels great. Getting the morale bonus, getting the opportunity to go another round in combat, what does that do? That potentially doubles your damage. That potentially allows you to get down the battlefield quicker to disrupt the enemy's plays. That allows you to do another unit special ability and to get some additional value out of that. Additional turns are insanely powerful, and this morale is no exception to that. It allows you to really unlock the top tiers with those possibilities out there. Very good with any faction that has magical creatures, by the way, just in the way that morale works here in Olden Era. I do want to point out that, of course, Aeos does start off with the basic leadership and the basic ascension. Good hero. I don't think you can go wrong with this hero. I do not think you can go wrong with this hero. I think the morale is just that good. I think that going multiple turns is just that fine. And even if it comes down to just being able to mix your troops without penalty, I think that you're going to have a really nice time. Next up, we have Anastasia the Meek. Now, this is a hero that I think that we're going to have a lot of differing opinions on in the fandom. This hero starts off with the Masterful Arina's Touch spell. That is going to give the target creature some additional speed by 1, and that's not really going to scale with your spell power. The duration of the spell is going to increase as your spell power goes up, and as you increase your mastery and proficiency with the spell, you're going to get some nice nifty things. But Arina's Touch at base level is going to give you an additional 10% max HP. That can get all the way up to 20% max HP. It will also increase your initiative for any creatures by 1. When you get to proficiency level 3, then it'll impact your entire army. And then if you get to the max rank of proficiency, the spell will then double the speed and the initiative bonuses. So it'll be 2 speed and 2 initiative to the entire army. This kind of feels like the prayer spell from Heroes 3. And the prayer specialist from that faction, from Loyanus, I forget the name, but this feels in that general way where you buff the entire army in this sort of way. Feels good. It's a good spell. I worry that there might be better spells out there. Because of that, it's actually really nice that Anastasia starts off with the basic Thaumaturgy spell, or a secondary skill that allows you to cast 2 spells per round of combat. I think that this is a good hero. It's a good spell. It's going to be impactful at all points in the game. Where is this hero going to land in our tier ranking? For now, I'm going to say it's between I can make this work and a very fine choice. I'm going to err on the side of a very fine choice at the base end. Why not? Can't go wrong. I just think that there's a lot of limitations on the spell. That's one of the concerns. I mean, all you got to do is go up against Sunny Raktul from the Dungeon faction, who prevents all daylight magic casting, and you're cooked. right? It's easy enough to counter in that regard. Don't want to put it in can't go wrong, but I want to put it higher than I can make this work. Moving on, we have Clarissa. Clarissa is a hard economy hero. Clarissa is going to give you 500 gold per day and additional gold per every level up that she gets. Not to mention any gold that they find on the adventure map. They're going to increase the amount that you're going to get into your coffers by 50%. Whereas in the previous video, it was Melosa the Golden for the Necropolis faction. They had this gold ability, but they had a different secondary skill than basic economy. Clarissa has basic economy. This is just like Glassdoor from the Dungeon faction. And here's the deal. If you start off with basic economy as this basically economy specialist, you have the opportunity to cover up your weaknesses. With the sub skills with economy, you can get +1 wood or ore per day. If you're struggling with that, you can get +1 of the precious resources that's important for your faction, or you can just go for an additional 500 gold per day on top of the massive amount of gold that you are already getting. By the way, I love in basic economy that at expert rank, you can effectively use your hero as a second or their own little marketplace to help you trade more efficiently. I just love it. I just love it. And so it's interesting because Glassdoor for the Dungeon faction went into S tier for me because economy on apocalyptic difficulty is just that good. Melosa the Golden, they went into kind of the tough to use tier because they don't have the hard in with economy. I think Clarissa, for me, is going to be in this can't go wrong section. If it's your primary hero, there's still some good quality value on that if it's like a single hero mode. But if this is your secondary hero and you find them in the tavern, you're having a really good time. It's basically having a free gold mine. You can't go wrong with gold. Other stats wish that they could do what gold does. Gold unlocks additional stats, additional abilities, and additional opportunities. Clarissa, you are S tier for me. You are in the can't go wrong section. Moving on, we have the Heretic Avis. Avis is, +1 gems per day. We're getting both of the economy heroes for the faction, one right after the other. But whereas Clarissa gave you just gold, Heretic Avis is going to produce +1 gems per day, plus additional gems every 5 hero levels. If they find piles of gems on the map, they will increase the amount you take by a certain amount. You got to have the gems for your angels. Angels, it takes 20 gems just to get the Radiant Forge. That could be exceedingly useful to make sure that you are able to hit your quota. Maybe by the end of week 1 or week 2, you're able to get the Radiant Forge. With Heretic Avis, I think you can consistently get angels by week 2. Does that mean that in single hero mode that Heretic Avis is all that good for you? It's up for debate. If you miss out on angels by week 3, then you've absolutely completely ruined your opportunity here. But on a multi-hero map, still could be very effective to have this hero be effective for you. They start off with basic ascension, basic recruitment. How good is it? It's not bad. It's not bad, but it doesn't have the same glittering effect as Clarissa does. So I'm just going to put this into the I can make this work for now. You can make this work. But important to note, all of this is template specific. On some templates, this is going to be, I can make this work. On some templates, I would say this is going to potentially be tough to use. So keep that in mind for all these heroes, that this is going to be template specific, and I'm not talking about any one template here at the current juncture. Next up, we have the hero Ister. Ister is the man. This guy has additional movement points, so 10% bonus movement points, plus 2.5% more points every 6 levels, moves significantly more efficiently on roads, starts off with basic logistics. This is immediately S tier. There's no other questions about this. Movement is one of those stats that you can't buy with gold. We've talked about, yeah, with gold, you can buy stats, you can buy units, you can buy buildings and all these other things. You can trade gold for other forces. You can't buy movement points. You really can't. And so on single hero modes, Ister is insanely good because of how much they're going to be zooming around the entire map. And also, even as a secondary hero in a multi-hero map or your primary hero, logistics is never bad. Logistics is always an S tier skill. Gotta love it. Ister, no further questions. Top tier. There you go. Next up, we have John Johnson. I don't know. I like John. I like John Johnson. Starts off with the 3 stacks of the swordsman, and of course the growth in the cities for swordsman is going to increase by 1. His swordsmen are going to get additional speed and initiative and 20% bonus HP. Important to note that all heroes that are a unit specific specialist, they are going to have that +1 speed, +1 initiative, +20% hit points, and then some additional growth in your cities. That's going to be true for whatever hero specialist units you have. But it's kind of important for John Johnson because really the swordsmen are your early game backbone. They cover for your crossbowmen. They go down the battlefield to try and delete enemy ranged creatures from the battlefield. The Aegis, the Sun's Aegis, will stay back and try and protect your forces in the back line. They're just a good all-around unit, even for a tier 1 creature. And giving them 20% bonus HP actually goes an awful long way for me. It really absolutely does. Worth noting, he has the basic ascension and the basic defense skill. Basic defense is always pretty good, but the Temple faction tends to, I've noticed, get offered that quite frequently. So where exactly is John Johnson going to land? I feel like we need to talk about all of the unit specialist heroes at once, but we're not going to. For now, John Johnson, I like the swordsman. I like the direction that they go. Unlike with the Necropolis faction, where you can use your skeletons and send them into skeleton archers to give you ranged damage, you can't really do that with the swordsman, and yet the upgrade and the big stack of units is still really, really good. This is at least a very fine choice. I would say that this is actually better than for Anastasia the Meek, because the upgrades for the swordsman are actually pretty good if you want to go into a defensive tanking unit or if you want to go with the double strike ability. Either way, I feel like this is at least a very fine choice, and depending on the map template, you might be all the way up into can't go wrong. John Johnson, good hero. I like you just the way you are. A little bit basic, doesn't really scale into the late game as much as I would like, just because, I don't know, swordsmen, you tend to take an awful lot of attrition with them. You just can't help that in the early game. Getting a huge power stack at the end is kind of tough, but still, not a bad creature, not a bad hero to get started on an adventure map. Next up, we have Julius. Hear me out. Julius is going to be a high quality pick in pro play. Hear me out. Julius is going to be a great pick because the Masterful Healing Water spell is going to fill a need and a niche that's not quite ever present in Olden Era. So in other Heroes games, you have access to dispels and cures. You have access to mass cures, mass dispels, right? You can effectively wipe the slate clean, and you don't really have that so much with Olden Era. Like, you don't really have a go-to way to counteract negative spells from the enemy. This guy can keep you going. So with the Healing Water spell, of course, it's going to heal a certain amount based off of your spell power, but his Masterful Healing Water spell will also dispel all negative effects from friendly creatures. And that is going to be valuable. I really think that's going to be valuable. You can figure out your offensive strategy, but having a go-to ability that can shut down an enemy is incredibly powerful insofar as I'm aware. He does kind of put a hat on a hat. He has basic resistance as his secondary skill. Of course, creatures are going to take reduced magic damage from that, but that just means that he covers not only the damaging spells and resists those, but he also will resist the negative effects. I think that this is going to be a really, really good choice. It's not flashy, but it will get the job done. Worth noting that Healing Water, as you level it up, you can get it to the point where it will heal and cleanse all your forces right then and there on that round that this is cast, and then it will also impact at the start of the next turn. It will re-heal all your forces and clear off any negative buffs. This guy is going to keep on going. Pair this with the Thaumaturgy secondary skill, and you're going to be having a real good time. Folks, that doesn't mean that he's going to be S tier for everybody. This doesn't mean you can't go wrong with him. In fact, I think that there's a high skill cap here. I think that Julius is going to be a very fine choice. I can make this work somewhere in this range. For now, I'm going to keep him in a very fine choice at this current juncture, but keep in mind everything I said. In the right hands, I think that this guy can be excellent. Next up, we have Keandra. Keandra is going to be the specialist for the cavalries, and so you can tell she's got her helmet and she's got her cape, and I'm sure that she is mounted as she is flying through the world. She starts off with some swordsmen. She starts off with a couple of the cavalry, and here's the thing I've noticed. There's a lot of templates where your starting biome is going to actually feature an awful lot of cavalries. Like there's going to be an awful lot of the hippodromes, the external adventure map dwellings, meaning that if there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in your starting biome, Keandra can make excellent use of those forces. So I think that she's actually gonna be template specific S tier, and in other ones just a very fine choice. I mean, the secondary skill that she starts off with, not so bad. I like basic battlecraft. I like her skill progression. There's no part of her I don't like. I like that she starts off with the forces, and I just love the fact that in many instances there's going to be lots of neutral adventure map dwellings to increase the number of forces. Where's that going to land her in my tier ranking? It depends. On some maps, can't go wrong. On other maps, a very fine choice. For now, I'm just going to say that I can make this work. Now, again, I could put her up into here, but for now, I'm just going to say I can make this work because I can. I can make this work on any map, and on some maps, it's going to be even better. Next up, we have Kestrel. Kestrel is one of my favorites because everybody has it ingrained into them. Look, I'm going to put my tanky units in the front, and I'm going to have my ranged damage in the back. We're going to shoot the enemies before they even get to us, and we're going to win the game that way. We're going to clear the adventure map. And Kestrel does a really nice job with this because of the Crossbowman and her speciality. So she starts off with so many Crossbowmen. One of the problems with Temple I've noticed is that in the early game, they don't have a great way of mitigating losses unless they really do well with their Crossbowmen. She gets you off to a wonderful start. She will help you take some early advantages that you otherwise wouldn't be able to take. You're going to take some extra fights with Kestrel that you otherwise could not take. And let's not forget here that really the whole faction is sort of built on this idea, at least up into the point where you get into the mid game, that you've got your ranged crossbowmen, stringers, marksmen, you got your angels, you got your lightweavers, you got this ranged damage. And even if all of these marksmen, the stringers in the late game, if all they do is just take heat off of your angels, job well done. They're still going to do damage. They're going to be a menace to deal with. The enemies are going to have to factor them into their play. Early game, they help you clear the map. Late game, they take pressure off your other units. Where exactly is Kestrel going to land for me? I think that, like Valeska from the Heroes 3 playthroughs, I think it's going to be at least a very fine choice into Can't Go Wrong. For now, I'm going to put her at the very bottom of Can't Go Wrong because I think you can get some real high-quality value out of Kestrel in the early game. Next up, we have Leon Sticky Fingers. Sir, I don't know how you got that name, but I'm going to assume that it's because you're a thief. He has no terrain penalties, and he also has +1 sight radius, plus additional sight radius per every hero levels. Folks, when I first started playing Olden Era, I thought that Leon was kind of bad. I was like, what's the point? He's got scouting. It's not very good. This guy is a menace on Jeebus Cross single hero mode template. Absolute boss level, because very early on you can get up to expert scouting, and if you get expert scouting, you can reveal, like, I think it's like 3 times your scouting radius in the fog of war around you. If you can get Leon Sticky Fingers at like level 10 to the very center of the desert, you can see all of the opportunities in front of you. You can make the very best decisions about what artifacts are going to help you win. You're not going to waste time like trying to fight some fights, and later you realize, oh wait, I should have waited, I should have not done this. Scouting on a single hero map is generally a very high tier secondary skill, and the expert sub skills associated with scouting are tremendous, and he just makes that even better. Leon Sticky Fingers, it is definitely template specific. Where do you land? I'm gonna put you for now in the I can make this work, but again, I just said what I said. On the right template, this guy can be absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. Not to mention, if it's multi-hero mode, classic playthroughs, you're going to have lots of different heroes. A great scout is never going to go awry for you. Not to mention, no terrain penalty. Yeah, good hero. Good hero. Next up, we have Laya, the Untethered. I don't know quite what she is. Is she an angel? Is she an embodiment? I feel like she must be. Like, Aeos is definitely an angel. Is she a sentinel? She might be a sentinel. So Laya, the Untethered one, she's going to be the daylight magic specialist. So +1 level to all daylight spells, plus additional levels per every 10 hero levels, and can use them in battle without limits. Thank you to everybody that provided their input on what exactly the phrase "can use them in battle without limits" means. A lot of people have indicated that that means that artifacts that would otherwise shut down certain spell casting. That's not going to impact them. For example, if this hero came up against Sunny Raktul, the other daylight magic specialist from the other faction, that they kind of don't cancel each other out, they both just get to cast their spells. Being able to use without limits is very effective. I really enjoy that. And you can use, for example, 2 daylight magic spells in the same round. Good stuff. Lie of the Untethered one starts off with From a Bird's Eye. Don't love that spell. It shows you the borders of the areas, including those hidden by the Fog of War. I haven't found this spell to be particularly useful for myself just yet, but I'm sure that somebody else is going to let me know where it could be better. Still, all the same, starting off with basic daylight magic, this hero is going to scale exceptionally well into the late game. I personally rank the 4 schools of magic in order as such: Daylight, Nightshade, Arcane, and then Primal below that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Daylight is number 1. So Lie of the Untethered one, by virtue of daylight magic being so strong, is going to be pretty darn high for me. Where are they going to go for me? At this point, I don't think I've had a single specialist in a school of magic be below a very fine choice, and I don't think I will. I think that magic is just that good, and I think that the special abilities and such are just so good that I'm going to put them at least to the very top of a very fine choice, maybe higher. If the Temple faction had access to a 5th level mage guild, which they don't, they only have tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4, I think I actually might put her higher. But because you're not going to immediately have access to tier 5 spells if you just rush a mage guild, that causes some issues for me. Makes me a little bit sad. For now, she's going to go into this very fine choice. Next up, we've got Lord Edgar. Okay, this guy is going to scale like an absolute monster. My goodness. This hero will increase the attack and the defense of friendly creatures by 20% of his attack and defense, plus 5% more for every 6 hero levels. So as he gets stronger, your units are going to get even stronger. In the same way that Bulwark from the Necropolis faction is so powerful because it gives you % damage reduction from basic attacks, Lord Edgar is essentially going to give you percentage bonus damage and percentage damage reduction through the attack and through the defense. Like, that is so insanely powerful. It's so insanely powerful. If you find a way to get insight on Lord Edgar, and if you do your very, very best to rush into late game opportunities, he can do wonders for you. Now, here's one thing to consider with Lord Edgar. He starts off with Advanced Ascension. To this point, I haven't explained what Ascension is. It is the secondary skill that is Temple faction specific. It will allow every single time a creature stack dies on the battlefield, the remaining friendly creature stacks will have increased hit points until the end of the next round, right? So, okay, all right. Fix Fox, that's kind of tough to use, but I agree. I don't love the Ascension skill myself. You can make it work. There's some really nice sub skills where you can heal your forces whenever a stack dies and things like that. It could be very useful for your high tier, high hit point units. But what this does for Lord Edgar is this. This opens up the possibility of you getting into the specialities for the different heroes. So like in, for example, Heroes of Might and Magic 4, where you can specialize your heroes and have some really nice special buffs that go with this force, you can do the same thing in Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era. And Lord Edgar only starts off with the Advanced Ascension, meaning that he doesn't have as much, or he has more room for error in picking up his special abilities. So he can get the Swashbuckler main ability, right? Which will cause your heroic strikes to deal 200% bonus damage. Or you can get Paragon, in which case all allies will always deal maximum damage and take minimum damage. Because he has and starts off with one less secondary skill than everybody else in his faction, you can more likely get the secondary skills that are going to go into Paragon. And that makes him actually much better than otherwise anticipated. So late game enemy, he's got the best chance at getting into one of those really awesome Might Hero specialities, right? Insane. I like it. If you don't love it, I understand why. You can understand that this is a little bit tough to still make happen, but he's got some really high skill potential. Where's he going to land for me? Edgar, you're going to go to Cat go wrong. Sir, you cannot go wrong. There you are. Very tippity top at the moment. Good job. that's where you're going to be for now. And that's where I'm going to keep you until somebody in the comment section says, Pixfox, you know what you're talking about. I'm excited for that conversation. Let's have a conversation about Lord Edgar. I think that there's some interesting things there. Moving on, we have Mary Elias. Folks, Mary Elias is going to be that hero that is on the adventure map. He's got a lot of little things he does really, really well. And that's really surprising, and it makes it hard to rank him. So let me just talk to you about what I mean by that. So Mary Elias is going to get +1 spell cap for global map spells. Okay, all right. But additionally, max mana is going to be even higher, and he starts off with diplomacy. That's interesting to me. Like, that's actually interesting to me, because he does lots of things interestingly well, but I don't know how it all kind of coalesces together. I don't know how this all works together to make Mary Elias like really good or just like kind of meh, because if you specialize in one thing and you're really good at that, your strategy is much easier to deal with. If you're only kind of good at a lot of things, the jack of all trades, that can cause some problems for you. I honestly am not going to make a decision on Mary Elias. Heck, I didn't even know what global map spells meant for a second there. So clearly this is going to be a hero that's going to go for me into this. More information needed. I just need more information. I've only played one game with Mary Elias, and I don't remember how it went, to be honest. So let me know what you think about Mary Elias. How good? How poor is he? Diplomacy, global map spells, additional spell points. Let me know what you think about Mary Elias. Next up, we have Nadir. Nadir is going to be the specialist for the Nightshade School of Magic, essentially. They're going to start off with Masterful Vulnerability. Okay, let me take a step back. They are not the specialist for the Nightshade School of Magic, right? That's incorrect. They are a spell specialist for Masterful Vulnerability. However, they do start off with Nightshade Magic, which is actually difficult to get as the Temple faction. So if you want to go into Nightshade Magic, you have Nadir. That is your opportunity to guarantee that you will get this rather obscure school of magic for the Temple faction, and you can potentially do what other factions might struggle to do, and you can get Daylight and Nightshade Magic all in one hero. It's really nice to just have that starting off. But worth noting, he has the Masterful Vulnerability spell. Vulnerability is going to cause the impacted creature to take an additional 20% damage from all sources. That could be a heroic strike, that could be a spell, that could be a basic attack, etc., etc., etc. And in this case, this version of the spell will always cause the target to take max damage. So if my Griffins attack and they have a damage range between like 8 and 12, they're always going to do the max amount of damage. So kind of like as if they had the Masterful Blessing spell, which we will get to with Vesper in just a little bit. How good is Nadir? It depends. It depends. Masterful Vulnerability in and of itself is not going to do damage. You got to back that damage up with something else, right? But there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of synergies where you can use this Masterful Vulnerability with other spells and other strategies and get a lot of use out of it. I'm excited to see how other people can use this. For now, though, I'm going to struggle to use this myself exceptionally well. I'm going to put Nadir into this I can make this work phase, right? I can make this work. I think I can, but I think that there's a lot of like trying to figure out exactly the best way of using them. There's some lack of clarity in what we can do with Nightshade. It's going to come down to the percentages because I don't have the numbers in front of me yet. Somebody says that they leaked the numbers on like a Chinese website for Olden Era. Like somebody got into the game's code and they figured out what the percentages were for certain things. I don't know how much stock I take into that as far as like the likelihood that a Temple hero gets Nightshade and so on and so forth. I don't know, but somebody out there is going to eventually find out. Once the game at least hits early access, then I expect that the wiki will be more fully complete. For now, folks, I can make this work and I will be happy for it. Moving on, Old Lord Mandall. This guy, all shiny and stuff in his armor with a bird on his shoulder. His heroic strikes are going to do additional damage, and additional damage based off of his hero levels. This is the important thing. So whereas Nadir had to cast a spell in order to give 20% bonus damage to whatever target, Old Lord Mandall doesn't have to use spell power at all to increase the damage taken by the target by 20% damage. Now, the Masterful Vulnerability spell, that is absolutely important to note, it can last for multiple turns. This heroic strike additional damage taken is only going to last until the end of that round, but still, this is much more accessible, much more easy to use in my opinion. I think that Old Lord Mandall is going to be very effective, because if for no other reason, then consider units like dragons and things that are invulnerable to magic, they can still be impacted by the heroic strike. This is maybe one of the few ways that some of those really difficult to slow down creatures can be impacted by spells and abilities. This can actually be very, very useful. Old Lord Mandall, where in the heck do you go in this tier ranking? I think he's a very fine choice. I think that in general, if you put heroic strike exceptionally high, you're going to be a little bit disappointed, because even with the scaling, I don't think it's that good, right? But with the special ability to increase the damage taken on that particular stack of units, I think that there's some potential there. I really do enjoy 20% bonus damage. That goes an awful long way for me. He's not going to be the top of very fine choice. He's going to be like top of I can make this work, bottom of a very fine choice. But for now, he's going to be somewhere in this range. Somewhere. Next up, we got Pip. All right, I have to tell you a story. So it was maybe about 8 hours into my Olden Era experience, and I was playing on the build that is available through the Unfrozen Discord that gives you the access to be able to play hero against hero, or rather player against player, right? And in that build, I ran against a Pip, and I don't know who this person was, and at this point, I'd be embarrassed to look them in the face, but whereas my hero had like, I don't know, 15 attack and 15 defense and 20 spell power and so on and so forth, their Pip had over 50 attack, over 50 defense. Their Pip was absolutely insane because of the 25% bonus XP that Pip gets, plus an extra 5% per every 2 hero levels. That Pip got insane. Oh, lest we forget, when leveling up, Pip gets an additional attribute point for every 2 levels. Pip can be a monster. Now, how good exactly is this XP? How good is the basic insight secondary skill that Pip starts off with? I don't know. All I know is I have this one anecdotal data point that I have seen personally where I got destroyed by a Pip, and that is probably going to impact how I feel about Pip for the entire rest of my life. So that's just the way it is. By the way, it does start off with the early start spell. It'll increase the initiative of the friendly target creature by 2. Folks, where in the heck does Pip go for me? Pip is going to be very template specific. I think that this is at least a very fine choice. Like, at least a very fine choice, potentially, and can't go wrong. The reason that Pip can't get into I can't go wrong is because I think that you can go wrong. I think that you can make some judgment errors. I think that you can potentially mess this up. You have to really focus on power farming and power experiencing, and you could mess that up. So Pip, for now, you're going to stay in this very fine choice, but heck, you could even drop depending on who is playing you. Next up, we got Vesper. Vesper's got maybe my favorite masterful spell. This is going to be the Masterful Blessing spell, which is going to cause, as all blessing spells do, your forces to deal additional damage on the melee attack. As you level it up, it'll do from 10% damage up to 25% damage, and it will also impact the entire army. With Vesper's Masterful Blessing spell, your target creatures will always deal maximum damage as well. Kind of like as we were talking with Lord Edgar and the Paragon ability, this will do that essentially for free. You do got to get the spell leveled up for it to impact your entire army, but there's a lot of value with this. Honestly, I played a game the other day where late game it was myself and a dungeon hero, and the first spell that they cast was expert or top proficiency blessing, because 25% bonus damage in a late game setting is just so good. The simplest tier 1 spells can sometimes be the very, very best, and this Masterful Blessing spell adds another dimension to that really for the Temple faction, for like Griffins and Hierophants and some of the other upgraded creatures, this can be good. You thought that your Mother Superiors were doing a lot of damage before. Stack them with this Masterful Blessing spell and then get back to me. Folks, Vesper, by the way, also starts off with basic daylight magic. This guy's a boss all around. Where's he going to go into? I got to tell you, for Vesper, for me, top of a very fine choice, bottom of can't go wrong. Where you're at, and that's where you're going to stay for now. By the way, we are going to re-rank this tier list. The fact that there's nobody in tough to use right now kind of bothers me. So I'm gonna adjust this in a little bit, but we do have one final hero to get to first. Maybe Zenith is going to go into the bottom tier. Let's see. So this is a hero, and she is the Lightweaver hero. Lightweaver specialist, right? Lightweaver's good tier 4 unit. Got some flexibility as far as whether you're going to make them an offensive force going into the Hierophants, or you can just have them be like a supporting spellcaster, right? But another option to clear the map safely from afar. And this hero starts off with two important things. Outside of just being the Lightweaver specialist, they have two important things. That is their secondary skill and the spell that they start off with. They start off with basic intelligence. As far as I'm concerned, basic intelligence is an S tier secondary skill because you can learn spells without having the corresponding school of magic. If you want to learn a tier 5 daylight magic spell, you have to have expert daylight magic, unless you got basic intelligence, in which case you're doing absolutely a-okay. So for now, basic intelligence, that is perfect secondary skill to have. And Zenith starts off with the Heavenly Blades tier 4 spell. Target friendly creature will deal plus 50 pure damage upon attack and restores the same amount as hit points, does not revive fallen units, even from range, right? Whatever damage drop off you might have been concerned about having with this spell, you're not going to have it because pure damage can't be reduced just because of damage fall off at range. The heal is exceptionally nice. I really like Heavenly Blades. Oh, and by the way, did I mention it will destroy summoned creatures? Really nice spell. Really nice spell. I personally love it. Where's it going to go for me, folks? I think that she's at least, and I can make this work. Maybe kind of moving up in there. Okay. So with that being said, let me just do some adjusting because this actually does bother me. On the one hand, maybe it's a strength that none of the Temple faction heroes feel like they can be tough to use. There's other factions where I say to myself, this feels weird, this feels wrong, this doesn't feel great to me. How do I best use this hero? Right now, is there any of these heroes that are just tough to use? No, everybody feels fairly straightforward. And maybe in the simplicity, you actually get a lot of extra value. Let's go through the top tier. Morale specialist, economy, logistics, tier 2, crossbowman, crazy scaling and possibility at getting into Paragon, and then all your forces doing max damage and 25% bonus damage. That's a pretty good can't go wrong in the top tier. That's really pretty good. Below that, we got Pip with the additional stats and the additional level ups. We have Leah. What the heck do you do? Leah. Daylight magic. Heck, Leah might actually be up in the can't go wrong. I like my reasoning though. If you don't have access to the tier 5 mage guild right off the bat, I could, yeah, just for that reason, I'm gonna, oh, it's so bad. How do you put Vesper up here and not Leah as well? Jeez. I'm gonna keep it right there for now. John Johnson's gonna move down for me quite a bit. Lord Mandall, he's gonna move down a bit. Julius is gonna move up for me. Healing water and the negative spell reduction. John Johnson, nice to have a quality stack of creatures. Old Lord Mandall, the 20% bonus damage after the heroic strike that does scale. And then Arina's touch for Anastasia the Meek. I don't think that Anastasia is a very fine choice when you look at this. Like having masterful Arina's touch that gives you +1 speed or +2 when you max out this spell. I actually think she's going to drop. She's going to drop actually. And in fact, I think she's going to drop below Leon's Sticky Fingers. I think that the Heretic with the +1 gems is going to go at the very bottom. I think Zenith has got to go up. Above or below Nadir? Nightshade. And the vulnerability. I think that Lightweaver Specialist plus the high quality secondary skill and the nice starting off spell with the Heavenly Blades, I think that's got to go up there. I think that Keandra is actually going to go up into a very fine choice. Just given how many hippodromes you can find. Again, map and template specific, but I think she's going to go up to there. I think that she is. So this is my ranking kind of as I'm looking at this, just at the last possible moment. Do I like where this is at? I think I do. Maybe just so we have something bonus here, I'm gonna drop our Heretic into tough to use because I would like to have a little bit of a normal distribution. This is hardly a normal distribution. Maybe that is one of the bonuses of the Temple faction. And then finally, folks, give me all the information you can on Mary Elias. I'm very excited to find out what you think about this. I'm excited to see where you think I was correct, and I'm excited for you to tell me where you think I was wrong. So please do me a favor, take a look at this video, take a look at your own notes, figure out what other angles we might have missed, and remember, include those in the comment section so that we can all get better at Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era. My name is FixFox. I'm grateful for the opportunity to spend the time here with you. This is fun for me. I hope that this is fun for you. Let's have a spirited discussion. Let's have a really great time. And with that being said, do me a huge favor. Look after you, look after your friends, look after your family. Take very good care of yourselves, because if you don't look after yourself and others, who will? Until I see you again, stay good, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.